Sounds good.
Hi, Brandon. Welcome to the Anti Podcast.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for having me.
Can you introduce yourself quickly to our audience, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Brandon Fluharty. I'm the strategic accounts solutions lead on our global conversational AI. So I work with Liveperson, and we're a leading company in the conversational AI space. And I work with our larger companies in the organization.
What type of businesses do you usually work with inside of Liveperson?
Yeah, typically Fortune 100 type of brands. So some of the largest companies in the world.
Can you mention maybe a recent bot experience you have with a project you have been working on?
Yeah, so I'm on what we call the tip of the spear. So I don't actively manage or build bots, but I am consulting on some two really interesting projects recently.
Wow.
One is with a top retailer. So it's what we call a big box retailer here in North America. And with everything happening with COVID-19, there's been a massive shift to curbside pickup and delivery. And so it's very, very difficult for these types of brands to have a lot of people in their stores. So what we're working on here is taking some of those one-way SMS notifications that are coming into consumers to instruct them on how to pick up their products after they purchase them. So the idea is you pull up in your car and they'll come out and drop off the package in your car so that you can safely keep social distancing. And so what we're working on is helping to give the customer more information when that SMS notification, and we're building bots, an FAQ bot to make that very easy. But that's easy stuff. Anybody can really do that. What we want to transition to is becoming more of a personalized shopper. So over time, the bot is going to be able to collect those intents of those consumers, understand what products they purchased, and come the busy holiday season in Q4 later this year, they'll be able to sort of deliver a personalized shopping experience. Hey, you bought a smart speaker in May. Here are some great products that might complement that for that special someone in your home. Things like that.
So if I understand correctly, the first stage is like helping people to pick up stuff in the store, and then using all those interaction later on, you can help people setting up more personalized experience, even in different channels you mentioned, because you first are interacting with people using SMS, and then later even using voice channels. Is that the...
Yeah, I mean, we could take that from messaging over to like a voice assistant like Alexa or Google Assistant. I think the primary focus is these SMS notifications are going out to customers anyways. But if you have questions, the problem is if you try to respond to that SMS notification, it goes nowhere or you don't get a response.
Interesting.
So we're helping the brand to turn those SMS notifications through a solution we have called proactive messaging that allows you to actually engage in a two-way dialogue. Hey, where do I go when I'm ready to pick up my purchase? And people have questions like, how do I know it's safe to do this? People have a lot of questions right now in today's environment. So we want to have that bot there to address a lot of those basic questions. But again, that's the easy stuff. How can we then take that to the next level when we evolve and we progress into the busy holiday season?
That's a very interesting project here. And speaking about the COVID-19, how do you see the disease impacting the conversational AI space overall?
Yeah, so for a lot of the brands that I work with personally, we're seeing a huge spike in demand. Obviously, this is, I think for our industry, anyone who is building automation, building chatbots, this is a great time to showcase good automation. And so we've seen a huge spike in demand on our platform okay? Because when contact centers are shut down across the world, trying to connect the brand over the phone just isn't going to happen. And brands can't go forever with a notification at the top of their website that says you're going to experience long hold times. Essentially, what you're telling your customers is don't interact with us because we can't staff. So the shift to conversational AI has just exploded. And so we've done some interesting things. A couple of stories here is, we've helped one company transition all of their workforce to home, and they needed bots to help these workers from home understand, hey, if I have questions around IT or a computer that I'm not familiar with, or some piece of technology connecting to the internet, things like that, we've actually built a bot to help them with that. So in a very conversational way, they can get their questions addressed without putting pressure on their IT department.
So in this case, it's like for internal employees instead of customers.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was just
which channel are you using for delivering the bots?
Yeah, for that, that can happen over the web. Web messaging.
Interesting.
Yeah, and things on the mobile device too, because they are okay with their, it's a BYOD, bring your own device type of environment. So we can also engage. It's pretty cool if you have questions. So if they go to their company's intranet, there could be a QR code displayed. And all they have to do, if they have an iPhone, for instance, they can point their camera to the QR code and then engage in a conversation over Apple Business Chat, which takes place on the native iMessage, the messages application that exists on every single iPhone. So you can take up the conversation there, and it's just you're always there. You're in the pocket of that employee now, and anytime they have a question, they can go right back to their messages thread, which is the same thread they're going to talk with their mom, their friends, their family. They can ask the bot questions right there.
Interesting about the Apple Business Chat. Are you seeing any sort of increase of adoption from maybe the business end of these type of channels?
Yeah, and we're a global company, so it really depends on the region too. In North America, we've seen a huge uptick in Apple Business Chat. They really are sort of leading the way in business messaging.
Wow, okay.
And maybe your part of the world and other parts of the world, we're using WhatsApp for business messaging very effectively. We're also in Asia, Line is another popular one that we see. Yeah. And obviously in China, we connect into WeChat. So it really just kind of depends on what part of the world. But in Europe and South America, WhatsApp has been extremely popular. Yeah. And we've used those channels very effectively.
And talking about North America, because I recently heard like Google is launching also the Google Business Messaging. Are you seeing any sort of impact on this? Because supposedly they are working with the telco businesses and delivering everything on SMS, right?
Yeah. So they're rapidly changing from SMS to RCS.
Wow. Okay.
And so there's two things we're seeing from Google. The Google Business Messaging, which is going to be baked into native Google type of search results or maps. So that's been a nice project there to see. So if I am searching somebody locally, for instance, I can, instead of be forced to call that company, I could just click to message. The thing there is it doesn't go to a dedicated messaging application. It just sort of is baked into Google's ecosystem. So one of if there is a drawback, one of the drawbacks is when I want to come back to that conversation to communicate with that company, it's hard to find that conversation. RCS is kind of the equivalent of Apple Business Chat. And as you noted, there was a large effort to work with telcos So you were dependent on one, that you had the right version of Android, and two, you were working with a carrier that supported it. So the adoption has been a bit slower on that side, but the user experience is pretty amazing.
Have you tested yourself already?
I'm sorry?
Like, have you tested the RNC yourself already?
Yes, yeah,
Oh, nice.
we're plugged into it. So we have some brands who are actively using it. I particularly, I'm an iPhone user,
Okay.
so I haven't, spent a whole lot of time on it, but I have seen it in person, and it's a really interesting experience.
So to understand here, the Apple Business Chat is for like iPhone users, and then the Google Business Messaging is for Android users. Kind of that situation.
Yeah, so actually Google Business Messaging could work on an iOS device because it's just baked into native Google products like Search and Maps. So you could actually have a Google Business Messaging conversation on your iPhone. And an RCS is definitely, it is only for Android devices. So it's almost the equivalent of Apple Business Chat, but for Android users.
Amazing topic here. I'm so excited about everything that is happening in the messaging space. And maybe to finalize the conversation here, can you share a contrarian opinion you have about the future of chatbots? And maybe let me explain a little bit the point about contrarian opinion, right? So I think a lot of people might agree on some general trends like AI becoming smarter, things like that. But I'm particularly interested in those like controversial ideas or opinions you have. And you, maybe not a lot of people would agree with you, but you believe it would become true in the future.
So I think there's two things. One, I think there is bias.
Bias, all right.
Yeah, in particularly gender bias in AI today.
Okay.
So the idea being is, why are most chatbots or virtual assistants, why are they female subservients?
Oh yeah.
Alexa.
Very good point. Okay.
Erica at Bank of America. And I think the problem is that most designers of bots are male. And they're bringing their preconceived notions of the world in designing these bots. And that kind of leads into the controversial version 2, topic 2 is, I think that about 90% of companies are approaching how they build bots wrong.
Wow.
And it's
okay, that's a strong statement here, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, here's the problem is, because of that gender bias is that most bots are these female subservients. Where are bots being created typically? And again, I'm coming from the view of, working with most large brands, big companies. They're putting the design and development of bots in the IT department. And we don't think that is the right place for it. So our view is that a lot of these companies have really strong conversational designers that they're unaware of. And those are
very
folks.
Interesting point here. Yeah.
They're the people who are already having good conversations in the contact centers, right? So if you're a large bank, or if you're a large retailer, there are folks on the line who are having good conversations with those customers every single day. So our view is shift bot design from the IT department, and let's put it in the hands of those contact center people, and give them tools that make it very easy for them to design these conversations by just typing out a dialogue flow or a script. So if you give them the tools to empower them, that gives them actually a whole new career path. So instead of going to the contact center and being stressed out to take one-on-one phone calls, you can go to have now work from home because contact centers are closed. The second thing is you move over to a messaging environment, so you can listen to music, you can take your time in giving really thoughtful responses. But now you have personal assistants, AI, AKA bots, who are helping you to do your job better. And now you can start to influence that automation in those bots to get smarter and smarter. And now you become a bot manager. So you're managing systems instead of individual interactions with the customers. That's the way we see the evolution of bots. And we've got to get it out of the hands of IT. They're okay for like the development aspect of bots and connecting into backend systems. That should be critical. But we think that the actual design of it, the consumer experience side of things, should really be in the hands of good conversational designers, and those are the contact center agents.
Well, that's such an interesting point here. I think the challenge, and maybe you guys are already working on the solution, is maybe the bot building process traditionally have been very technical, right? And all the natural language processing part is only like available for like the engineers to working on it. But maybe you guys have already came up with some way that can help those contact center representatives also have the ability to build a bot.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that. So Liveperson is a 20-year-old company. We actually, our CEO and founder actually invented traditional web chat back in 1997. And we led that way for like 20 plus years. But around 2016, we went all in on asynchronous messaging on like Apple Business Chat and WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. We think that is where consumers are spending their behavior, but brands didn't have the ability to take advantage of that. And what we saw that, the only way to scale messaging is through good automation. And we, when we looked at every bot company, essentially, we received a lot of the same things. And we've only acquired two bot companies out there to really kind of bring them into the fold, take the learnings, and what we found is, yes, you have to give really code light tools, very non-technical ability to allow those agents. And so we did. We developed it almost 2 years ago. It's called Conversation Builder, and it's very easy to use. Really, anybody. I was actually at a hackathon with a major airline, and in less than a day, in a number of hours, people were designing these folks were designing bots in a matter of hours. And,
that's amazing. That's amazing. And I imagine like their mental capability is so much oriented towards the customer. So whatever they design must be much more engaging than whatever the engineers is designing.
Exactly. And then for the developer community, we have all the tools in the back end for them, those engineers, to then say, hey, we've designed all these great customer facing experiences. So now let's connect that into our back-end systems so that we can do even more, right? We can know something about the customer. We can tie into those systems so that the bot is surfacing up really relevant information, and you can go really deep, right, with the tools. Our view is a bot and a human agent should be treated the same in the platform. So just as you can skill up a human agent, you should be able to skill up a bot as well. And we're seeing like upwards of 96% containment when you have a specialized bot for something like paying a bill.
Well, that's a very high precision, I would say. Like in most cases, I've been talking to people and they are saying some sort of 60, maybe 70%. So you can get up to 90%. That's very good level.
Yeah, because it needs that oversight, right? You need to be able to fine tune the bot. That takes human interaction, but it should be done in real time. It shouldn't be, and that's how you can speed up and scale automation. And that's what these really large companies need. If maybe you're a small business and you can take the time and maybe you're not getting a lot of interaction, but when you're talking about millions of inbound contact to a really large company, they need to do these things very quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good way to wrap up the whole conversation. Thank you for contributing and
Sure.
sharing your thoughts.
Thanks for having me.